Hello, my fellow readers. Dark Symphony 777 with a fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to that channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story and any future fan fictions you want me to read or review. And as always, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone's in the world. If you have your own opinion, leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments below. So, the original fan fiction I was supposed to do a review of was going to be Big O Season 3. However, I looked up the Monster Musume section because every once in a while I look there and see if there's any fan fictions that I want to review or read because I'm a big fan of Monster Musume. And I found out this story, My Lesbian Life of Monster Girls, Monster Yurisume. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. Finished, and I thought I'd take the time to go and review that. Next fan fiction I'm going to be reviewing is going to be Big O Season 3. Mainly because, I kind of put that one off long enough, so I might as well get started on that after this video drops. And my thoughts on Monster Yurisume, because that's going to be the title. I don't know whether or not to put the whole name or just Monster Yurisume as the title. I'm kind of flip-flopping with it. I don't really hate it, but I don't really like it. I find this story more of a disappointment rather than anything else because there was so much potential to the story. I really like what the author did with the story at the beginning, but it fell completely off the rails due to some bad choices involving the characters throughout the story that kind of brought my opinion of it down. So let's get started. Now, before I get into the actual review, I want to bring up something very clear. This review is going to be done a little differently, mainly because all the problems I have with the story are connected to the characters. I have nothing wrong with the plot, and I have nothing wrong with the pacing. All my problems with the story are connected to the characters, so I thought when I get there, I'm going to talk a little more bit about the characters, and also combine that with what I would change about the story, and kind of combine those two. And it's only going to be this video only, but there's that. So let's get started with the plot. So this girl named Yurisume Nakahara is a single lesbian chick, and I have to bring up lesbian because the story, I don't know why, seems to bring it up almost every single chapter for whatever reason. Is doing this, is signing up for the interspecies exchange host program, which is, how a lot of Monster Musume fan fiction kind of start with, like, the guy signing and then getting the monster girls. And that's fine. And we get an idea of what her character is, kind of badly. Again, that's going to be more explained in the character parts. And so the plot is her constantly becoming host with more and more monster girls, and the shenanigans her and them get up to while she's trying to become successful. She's trying to open up her own inn and be inclusive and be diverse and all this stuff, and also changing the laws of Japan, saying that change the laws to allow homosexual relationships because she falls in love with another character, Haru the Heartbeat. And there's lots of other minor plots littered throughout the entire story, but that's the main overarching story. Yurisume wants to open up an inn. She takes all these liminals in to kind of train herself to do it, and then she eventually accomplishes her dream, and she becomes a married woman, and stuff like that. And overall, with the plot is handled actually pretty well. It's not too over the top. I think a really simple plot kind of benefits this type of story, since they're just doing sort of a kind of pseudo slice of life story / romance story. So a not really complicated plot benefits the story. I have to give the author kudos for that. If the author made the plot too complicated, you would immediately switch off all. It would be a pretty bad idea. Or if it got any completely complicated, it would have completely ruined what the story was trying to accomplish, which was a simple, down-to-earth story about a girl just wanting to accomplish her dreams. There's nothing really complicated about that. It's fine for what it is, and I really have no complaints about the plot. Granted, I wished some of the chapters were at least a little bit longer. That's more connected to the problems with the characters themselves. The pacing. I have no problems with the pacing as well. It's not good, but it's not bad. It's on the slower side, but it needed to be on the slower side because it's such a long story and have to give time for the characters to breathe. The problem is, an earlier review I did was Enduring the Evil. And the one problem I had with the first story is the fact that the author had such a hard time juggling 7 characters at once in such a short time frame. It kind of left a lot of the characters completely underdeveloped or completely lacking over the fact that we just don't see enough of them to really care one way or another. Granted, the author does in fact fix this in Enduring the Evil 2 and 3. I actually reviewed all 4 stories so far of his series. He actually thanked me for the criticism, actually congratulated me. And he's not going to change anything about Code Veronica because that's too new. I actually respect that. It's too new. My only complaint about that story was he didn't describe what any of the characters look like. I just think, just adding what the characters look like would have helped a lot. I also liked how the fact that finally we got a story revolving around Alexia Ashford without her dying immediately. It is a plus in my mind because I love Alexia Ashford. She is a great villain. And I just realized I went off topic again. Sooner or later, someone's gonna leave in the comments that's pretty much a running gag that I always go off topic at some point in the video. At some point. So with the pacing, I really have no. It's on the slower spectrum, but it needed to be slow. My problem with the pacing is the fact there were so many characters that the author actually has trouble. You can actually, at certain points in the story, you can actually see the author's actually having trouble juggling the sheer amount of characters. Again, that's more connected to the problems of the characters themselves rather than problems of the pacing in itself, because the author, despite having the problem, still tries their hardest to actually pace everything as good as the author can make it. And overall, the pacing, while it's not perfect, the author does in fact try his dang hardest to make the pacing right with the sheer amount of characters that are being presented in the story, which is admirable. So now we get to the characters. Oh, a bunch of characters. Now, before I get into talking about the characters, I will say this. All the characters are, in fact, serviceable in their own way. It's just with all of these characters kind of being in the story at around the same time, some writers are going to gravitate more towards certain characters than others. It's like if you compare this to Monster Musume, some people are actually more favorable towards some other characters than others. Me, I actually really love Sue. The last Monster Musume FanFiction I reviewed, Jarul, he actually really loved Lala. Me and him actually had a discussion over who was better, Sue or Lala. And so he favored Lala, I just favored Sue because it's my opinion. And I respected him for favoriting Lala. I actually really like Lala as well. She's not Mia, but because Mia's a bad snack. snack. But it's kind of the same thing. There's going to be certain characters that I gravitate more towards because of how they're written, rather than anything else. But all the characters are serviceable, not bad, not good, but serviceable. And so take this area with a grain of salt. So let's talk. There's 3 main problems I have in terms of the characters themselves. The first one I'm going to explain. This one is not really the author's fault. I cannot blame the author for this because the author more than likely doesn't even know this happened. And that is the use of pictures in the story. Now, pictures have existed in books before. They exist in a lot of media, especially in literary media. It's kind of divisive in literature, mainly because a lot of people don't really care about the pictures unless they're children's books, and of course, children don't have the cognitive ability to really read all these interconnecting, branching stories and complex characters. They just want to see the and so they use the pictures to help them figure out what the words mean. That's fair. And there are actual novels out there that have actual pictures, like this one. So I'm gonna say right here, page 7 of Nancy Drew and the Fire Dragon. It does in fact have a picture. This is pretty much standard in all of the Nancy Drew / Hardy Boy stories. There was also a special copy of the Goosebumps Cuckoo Clock of Doom, which actually had pictures of the TV episode of the Goosebumps TV show in the pictures as well, kind of referencing the fact, oh, we made a TV show. Why don't you watch the TV show as well? And also Tales of Del Toro. Now, I have two problems with how they're presented. One problem in the author story is the fact the author actually takes shortcuts in certain pictures. The most problematic is actually the first picture of the entire thing. In the very first picture, when we're being introduced to Haru the Harpy, the author describes what she's wearing, what she looks like, and then it shows a picture. That's fine. However, a later chapter actually has Haru ask Wisu, hey, did you see the badge that you remember seeing the badge when I first came here? And, I immediately blanked out. It's like, I'm pretty sure the story didn't describe a badge. And I actually went back to the chapter that introduced her to double check, and guess what? The prose didn't actually mention a bag. It was only mentioned in the picture, which is a shortcut. You don't do that. That's actually literally 101. When you're making a picture to complement what's happening in the story, you have to make sure all the details that happen in the story are directly translated from the picture, which means if you want to change that, you're going to have to add, at least give a little detail on the insignia. The Haru one is not that bad, mainly because if you actually look at the profile picture at the synopsis, the picture of the girl, that's actually Haru, and you can actually click on it and see the badge right there. So the Haru one is not that bad, but, the fact that the author didn't mention the badge in the first place kind of did not sit well with me. It was actually my first clue over the main overall arching problem with the story, and that was inconsistency. But I'll get to that in a little bit. The other problem with the pictures themselves is nothing to do with the author. It has everything to do with two things. One, plagiarism, and two, fanfiction's moderator's response to that. Let me explain that in case you don't really know what happened. So late 2015, early 2016, around that time frame, give or take a few months, fanfiction.net was dealing with a gigantic problem. The rise of another website, Archive of Our Own, was allowing authors to kind of spread their works to a more bigger base, allowing them to become more popular and more well-known. However, some authors who were not really well-known took umbrage with that because now they're going to be remembered even more. And so these pieces of scumbag thought they had a clever idea by actually copying and pasting whole chapters, whole stories to their PDFs, to their Google Docs, to everything they have, and then printing it under their own names on Archive of Our Own. And so what happened was the actual fans of the authors found out about it. No, it wasn't Archive of Our Own that did anything about it. No, they didn't do anything about it. the fans of the authors found out, informed the actual authors that their stories are being completely plagiarized word for word, and then made complaints to the moderation team of FanFiction. The moderation team then informed Archive of Our Own, hey, some of these stories are being plagiarized, go take them out. Archive of Our Own dealt with the situation, and fanfiction.net dealt with their own situation by rewiring the system. What did they change about their site? Why you can't copy and paste anything on the author's pages anymore to stop this. So I'm actually on the very first chapter of Monster Musume, and I'm holding the left hand click, and I'm dragging down, and nothing's happening. But if I go up to the synopsis, everything's ready to copy and paste. So they made it impossible for authors for plagiarizers to copy and paste entire chapters of the story. They would have to pull up stuff and actually kind of slowly type in it, and that kind of had the blowback consequence of affecting stories that actually use, like this story, which uses pictures, because now you have to literally pull up a new tab, slowly type every single letter, and then wait for the page to load, and then wait. It completely distracts from the story when, on other websites like Archive of Our Own, FIMfiction.net, other DeviantArt to an extent. DeviantArt's kind of weird like that, where you can just drag, you can still do that, but those were more heavily moderated. Well, not Archive of Our Own. They had to be informed that, But then again, I can't really blame that website for what happened because, they weren't expecting that to happen. So it's been possible. So now it kind of ruins part of the story when you have to literally open up a new tag and type in by hand the entire link to the pictures, and it pulls your immersion out of the story. It ruins part of the story because you're waiting for the pictures to load while you just you can just copy and paste, click, look up a new link, then read while you're waiting for it to finish, and then you click on it, you see the picture, and then you exit out. That was actually much faster that way. But I can't blame the author for that because the author is not at fault for this. Now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about the moderate problem. And the fact that at certain parts of the story, all the characters are really indistinguishable from one another. Now, how the writing style in this story works is there's a lot of innuendo, a lot of sexy language involving all the characters, like literally all the characters except for like one or two, like Agent Will, who doesn't really care, and Akuto because she's asexual, and aromantic. I don't even care. Aromantic is a piece. I looked that up. Piece of garbage. But every time no matter what character, they always refer to Butts as perky. And with this type of story, you needed to have the writing style actually change depending on the characters themselves. Like, okay, certain characters, they benefit from having the really gratuitous sexual kind of perky buttness and the breast and stuff like that. Language like Yurisume, Mara the Arachne, Shion the Succubus, Aluru the Alrune, Quest the Slime. Those characters, they kind of benefit from having that sort of language. Okay, I can see those characters having it. Other characters like Suen the Centaur, Saya the Tiger. Well, I have no idea what Saya's kind of a weird one. Cat Girl. Quest the Jorgamond. No, not Quest. Yomu the Jorgamond. Haru the Heart. And all those characters and more have the same writing. So it kind of creates a situation where you have to be careful of you have to be careful of who's saying what, because sometimes throughout the story, I actually got my immersion ruined because Suen is thinking something that Mara might say, or she says something that someone not really fitting her character would say, and I'm late. And I'm thinking, wait, I thought Suen was the one talking. Why is she talking like Mara? And it really created this clusterfuck over having to constantly keep track of who's saying what, when for the most part, when it comes to stories with a lot of characters, you can easily tell who's right, who is saying what, because the prose kind of reflects who the character is talking about, and their dialogue reflects that as well. The problem with this is all the characters in certain parts act exactly the same, so you don't really know who's who unless you're paying a lot of attention to it. Like, a lot of attention. Which now leads me to the last part. And it kind of connects the last part into this, but I thought I'd mention it better. Is the characters are completely inconsistent. They are completely inconsistent throughout the entire story. So let's break it down character by character and see what should be done differently. So let's start out with a character hierarchy. Now, a character hierarchy is something I actually created. It tells you the type of character someone is based on how often they appear, how often they should appear. With a large group of characters in a story like this, it actually kind of helps you break up which kind of category they would be. So there are minor characters, major characters, and main characters, i.e. the protagonist and the antagonist. There's no antagonist in the story, so we can completely cut that out. So let's start out with the main character. The main two characters are Yurisume Nakahara and Haru the Heartbeat. These are the characters the story should revolve around. Meaning, in every part of the story, they should have at least some kind of discussion, something or other, over it. They're not. The more main characters there are, the more opportunities you have of doing concrete storytelling. If you watch My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, there are actually at the beginning. There was actually 6 main characters. The main 6: Rarity, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Twilight Sparkle. And then Spike kind of became a main character over the course of the season. And then I believe in season 6, Starlight Glimmer kind of became a main character as well. So they became 8 main characters. And so the main character is supposed to flip between major and main depending on what part of the story you're talking about. The major character should have been all of Yuisu's homestays, which are Mara the Alrune. No, I almost said Mara the Alrune. Mara the Arachne, Suen the Centaur, Quest the Queen Slime, the Pink Slime, Yomu the Drogamond, Shion the Gargoyle. Excuse me, I almost burped. Let's see, Shion, not Mimi. Aluru the Alrune, Rem the Gremlin, and Hakuto the Inaba Hare. Those should be the main, and I guess you can kind of throw in Saya as well, although she's more fitting under major minor character because she's not as important to the story as it is. And then the major minor characters are Attica the Moth, Mimi the Mimic, Saya the White Tiger, and I guess kind of sort of Misaki the Yatagarasu. Also throw in Agent Will as a major character. I completely forgot about Agent Will because he shows up way too much. And Corbin as a major minor character. Corbin the Kobold. And finally, the minor characters, all the one-shot characters that show up don't really show up a lot. They show up for like one chapter or a small group of chapters. Like the Royals near the end, which are all Egyptian cryptids. I'm going to call them cryptids because I actually like the word cryptids. And they show up for like a couple chapters. And they don't really have any standing on that stair, so they're minor characters. this whole thing should be changed. First thing, let's go over the characters. Yurisume Nakahara. She is a flat character. Bar none. She is a very flat character. Now, I bet all you're thinking, who probably, before watching the review, they paused the video, they read the story, and it's like, wait a minute, she's not a flat character, she's a Mary Sue. Not so fast! She's not a Mary Sue. She has some signs of a Sue-ish character, mainly the fact that everything seems to go her way in, such an easy way that, you kind of make the mistake that she has Sue-ish characteristics, but she's not a Sue character. She does get into arguments. She's fleshed out enough that you can't really call her a Sue character. She's far away from not a Sue character. She's a flat character, meaning she stays very static over the course of the entire story. She starts to stay. Her main character is she's sort of a pervert, like a hyper pervert. She was actually given the nickname Yurisume because she's such a big fan of Yuri manga that and she has sort of I guess you could say a sort of pseudo personality, sort of split personality. I don't know how to describe it. Where Yuso kind of be like a big gigantic pervert. That's fine for the basis of a character, but the fact that she doesn't really change over the course of the story, and this is a over 400,000 word story with 156 chapters. She doesn't really change until near the end, where she tries to trying to be with her mother again. It takes over 100 chapters for her to get some sort of character development, and then even then she went back. She stays pretty static. Now, I don't count her becoming an inn owner sort of thing because inconsistency. Okay, with the inn I have a problem with how the inn thing was handled. At the beginning, okay, we're basically just getting introduced to Yurisume and her motivations behind doing the interspecies host. And her reasoning is she wasn't definitely thinking of beautiful monster girls when she decided to apply, and then she said she was thinking of them. And she basically just wanted to be the interspecies host just so she can be around beautiful women and oogle at them and get away with it. She was basically being a lecherous pervert at the beginning. And that's what she stays over the course of the story. But you think, that she kind of grow out of it over the course of the story with her realizing that she loves Haru and Haru loves her. No, she still kind of does it over the course of the story, and it doesn't even diminish. She doesn't even fight Yurisume until near the end when they're doing like a BDSM thing. Around that point. And the inn thing. I have no problem with, her wanting to be an innkeeper. The problem I have with that is the incredibly lackluster way the author introduces that. You think such an important thing that is integral to her character would be, one, brought up way more often, and two, brought up at the beginning of the story. Instead, it's brought up in chapter 44. In such a half-assed way that makes it kind of seem like something that the reader should already know. No, we didn't know because of the simple fact we had to wait 44 chapters before realizing, oh, she wants to make an end? Oh, that's nice. Something we should have already knew from the very beginning. It's simple. Just with her character, make her more consistent by, giving her time to really slow down and stop being such a lecherous pervert. Granted, it kind of fits her character that she is a lecherous pervert, but her kind of holding it back, or at least slowly loosen the language over her constantly looking at breasts and legs and butts and the vaginas. Kind of whittle that away from her character over the course of the story, because with her character needed to start from pervert to someone who actually genuinely loves her girlfriend, and doesn't really and will look at the other girl's parts, but realize that, you know, she has her girlfriend, and she doesn't really want to stare at them too much. And yet the story kind of goes out of their way to say she's constantly doing that over and over again with all the girls, including the other homestays who all have girlfriends. See the problem with the inconsistency? Fix her character, simply do that. And also add in a mention at the very beginning of the story saying that she wants to make an inn and run an inn. Something like, okay, she wants to oogle beautiful monster girls. And also say that maybe she might actually consider it practice for when she opens that inn. So that way we know what her character goal is. We know what her character motivation is. We have borderline a full picture of how Yurisume works right from the first chapter when she's signing the paperwork and stuff like that. There we go. Next up, Haru the Harpy, another flat character. This one's more Haru is more due to the fact that her character is more tied to Yurisume than anything. She is a better developed character than Yurisume, despite the fact she is the other main character. The fact that, you know, she has more screen time and she has a better developed character. She has a backstory. How she was shunned by her people because she liked girls rather than guys. That's fine. And how she was a military. I think with some of the monster girls, I think what really would have benefited their characters were backstories. Like, just a brief couple paragraph backstories of, you know, what life was like. So that way we can better connect and better sympathize with their plights, because they feel empty because we know that they're shunned for being lesbian, but we don't know how they were shunned. We don't know how they reacted and stuff like that. And the only characters we had a backstory for was Rem the Goblin and Hakuto the Inaba Hare, and even then that was pretty vague on the whole details of it. So I have no problems with Haru just simply add the badge to the prose before you introduce the first picture. I completely forgot. Move all the pictures in the story to your page, author. Come on, just simply move them to the page so that way, you know, the readers can look at them on their own time. That's fine. And just have Haru be more consistent. Have her be lecherous as well. She needs to complement with Yurisume. Reading the story, honestly, their relationship feels less like they're in love with each other and more they're lusting after each other. I guess that fits with their characters, but it kind of gets grating over the fact that they constantly have sex, and just fix the assumption that they're lusting after each other. Like, make it very clear. Like, have them do more sweet things for each other, like give them gifts or simply cuddling, or, you know, some other, just a bunch of small details that are consistent with Haru and Yurisume's character. Just small details like that would go a long way of making it seem like they love each other for their bodies, and more they love each other for being them. So, you know, Haru is not that bad. She is kind of inconsistent, mainly due to how she works. She is better. Again, she's better than Yurisume, but she's still kind of flat. But I give her a pass. Just make her seem like more. Just make the relationship more stable, more seem like actually love than lust. No problem. Next character, Mara the Arachne. I actually really like Mara. I think she's one of the better written characters, simply because she seems to have a lot of screen time in the story, like a lot, and she's supposed to be a major character. There's the whole Comic Mon thing. There's helping Shion. There's her time with Suin. The only problem I have with her character is, again, inconsistency. So she's supposed to be an arachnid, a bright pink arachnid who is obsessed with gaming and elite logic, yet she doesn't really reference gaming all that much. And instead of that, the author kind of switched his tacks to making her very, very crude. The whole perky butts and big boobs and stuff like that, that fits her character because that's how it works. Having her be like a incredibly salty character. I just wish we could have had more gaming references because that looked like it was going to be her quirk. And then her quirk went into being very crude. And then about halfway through the story, it went back to, and then her crudeness just completely borderline turned off and just had a bunch of gaming references on top of the crudeness. I was like, very inconsistent with her character. I need to get more water. Suin. Suin's a flat character. Contrast to Mara, Suin is probably the flattest character of the entire crew. She was the third one introduced, so she's introduced completely early, but she just feels hollow. She just feels like the author is trying to do these things with her, and then it completely ruins it because the author seems to be focusing more on Mara's character than Suin. Let's see, she's a centaur obsessed with fitness. Yet after her introductory chapter, the whole fitness thing kind of drops outside of periodically. She gets into a relationship with Mara, which I think is the worst relationship because they don't feel like they're actually in love. They just feel like good friends, like a whole friends with benefits sort of deal. I don't care for their relationship. Suin is just borderline. It's just borderline an empty character. There's nothing really going for her. The author keeps trying to start these little character arcs or character quirks with her, but they always fall through because the author seems to want to focus more time on Mara's character rather than helping Suin along. I mean, we have Suin helping Mara with agoraphobia. That was completely rushed through. Suin's exercise thing, borderline gotten rid of after her character arc. Her little escapades at the gym, barely mentioned outside of every once in a while. She constantly shows up throughout the story, but she's constantly overshadowed by Mara and then eventually Rem. She's constantly overshadowed. She's just there. There's just no inconsistency with her because every time the author tries to do something with her, it's just completely botched because the author wants to focus on Mara, who completely overshadows Suin. It almost feels like you could just get rid of Suin and nothing would change about the story. Like, nothing would change. Next character. Oh wait, what would I change about Suin? Focus more. This is the part where I meant adding more length to the chapters, because so that way you have more time to develop the characters. So you have more time to develop characters like Suin and stuff like that. So Suin's probably the emptiest character, despite her showing relatively early. She just doesn't do anything. The author tries to do stuff with her, never goes through with it, never finishes it. So it's like, just finish something. Like, give us a longer version of Suin helping Mara with her agoraphobia. Give Suin some kind of backstory. Give her why she left, because unlike the rest of them, Suin's backstory is barely anything. She just traveled the world and she just wanted to visit this so she can try and accomplish her dreams, I guess. But we don't know what her dreams is outside of wanting to emulate Cobalt from Monster Musume. That's fine. So what I would do with Suin was simply touch up her character a little more. Give us more details of who she is as a person, and have her stand on her own, because a lot of the time when she's in the story, Mara is literally right there next to her and constantly taking everything. So give her some time to shine on her own. Like, give us a couple chapter of just Suin by herself, being by herself, doing what Suin does best. And what that is, I don't know. You choose. Next character, Quest the Pink Slime. I had high hopes for Quest simply because she's a slime. Of course, my favorite character in Monster Musume is Sue, who is a slime. So, and what did we get with Quest? We had a character who started good with the whole thing of possibly having a multiple personality disorder, to being a kind of flat character, to kind of becoming a decent enough character. I really wish that you could have carried through with the multiple. That's pretty much my only problem with her, is you had the idea with the multiple personality disorder of big quests versus little quests, but you don't explore it outside of her chapter, and she becomes kind of a non-entity until Yurisume kind of shows up, and then, you know, Quest kind of falls in love with her, and she gets drunk, and not to mention there's also inconsistency with her character. How she's introduced is she is kind of latching on to Mara and making her seem like she has big breasts and hot water, despite the fact the lore of Monster Musume dictates that slimes cannot be in they can't be in large bodies of water. 2, they can't really be in hot water because of the simple fact the water will kind of melt them off and kind of slowly destroy them. So kind of having Quest kind of show up in the water attached to Mara's chest is kind of does not fit how slimes should work in that world. Yes?
I found your keys. They were in the washing machine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm doing a video. Please leave. Thank you. That was my mom. Sorry about that. Anyway, I was on Quest. Her introductory was kind of botched. I really wish that she was more introduced with Suin, like messing around with Suin or Haru, because they have body parts that can't really go underwater. Like Haru can't get her wings wet. I think she needs a better introduction than just being attached to Mara. And what's her character? Her character at first is a split personality. She's like a false regal, over the top hammy princess. Like, I am queen of the slime kingdom. Worship me. And then little Quest is like a little bottle of adorableness. Like, Quest sleepy. Quest. And so the personality fluctuates as how strong she is and how stable she is with levels of love, which is a neat idea, except it's completely eschewed after the story, after her introductory chapter, because inconsistency. Am I right? She does get better when Yurisume is introduced, I think, or kind of tied into Quest is Yurisume, because after Yurisume gets introduced, they kind of become side-by-side characters because they fall in love, and I think in contrast to Suin and Mara being the worst relationship, Quest and Yurisume are the best relationship, because it's given time for them to acquaint to each other before falling in love. It's a genuine love story. They actually care about each other, unlike Mara and Suin, who kind of see each other, how it looks, more like friends, and better than Yurisume and Haru, who seem to more lust after each other rather than actually love each other. Again, that's what I get from the story. No complaints about Yurisume at all. Well, wait, I'm still on Quest. I just realized I'm still on her. Then she kind of becomes a flat character in the time before she meets before Yurisume is introduced. I believe there's like only one. Yeah, Yes, all throughout chapters 33 to 39, she kind of becomes a flat character. She gets better when Yomu gets introduced. Like, she actually genuinely starts to get a crush on her. And then she falls in love. And then we see more how she works with, like, having pheromone powers. I really wish the author could have done more. I get what the author wanted to do. The author kind of knew they was getting more characters what the author wanted to do. So the author had to let go of some of the characters. It just, Quest and Yomu happened to have been those characters. Yomu's character. I really like what the author did with Yomu, being a gigantic 40-foot snake, bigger than Mia. I honestly, the only problem I have with Yomu is the whole introducing her age sort of spiel. So she's well over a couple hundred years old. The problem is that's introduced at the very last minute. Like, I really would have liked it if there was some build up, like some references, like she's kind of talking. If she's a couple hundred years old, then have her a couple thousand years old. She's really, really old. Kind of have her reference like old timey things and make it sound like she was there. So that way we kind of wonder what's up with her. Maybe she's like old fashioned, and then drop the age thing. So it kind of leaves more of an oomph. Outside of literally introductory her introductory, just like Quest, I have no problems with Yomu after the fact. She falls in love with Quest. Quest actually gives birth. It's a really weird thing. Pink slimes, they give birth by having lots and lots of love. So they kind of split, and so then she has a baby. They name her Quest. Quest is adorable. I have nothing wrong to say about Quest. She is so adorable. She doesn't show up a lot, but oh god dang it, she is so adorable. She's just, the way the author makes her sound just seems like she's adorable. All of her, just a typical kid. Just, she's made of purple slime instead of pink slime. And so she kind of makes herself look like a snake and stuff like that. And there's a couple chapters revolving around Quest. And she's just really, really, really lovable. I mean, I have no problems with Quest and Yomu outside of how they're introduced. I think Quest, the only thing I would fix with them is Quest going more into the whole split personality thing, like what they did with Sue. Like what Sue does, her personality changes depending on what she has in her. Like, if she just drinks water, she gets slightly smaller, and her breasts go from flat to bazongas. If she's left in the cold, she turns into a cold bit. She turns into ice cold, and when she drinks contaminated water, she turns into a potty mouth. When she drinks fertilizer, she turns into a kaiju. And have kind of show more of that, just more on the levels of sex, but just leave it like Quest and her normal personality, and then little Quest, who like the split personality and sort of like thing. I just would have liked to see more with that, and introduce her a little differently with Yomu. Just kind of just have some references to her age before revealing it, so that way it carries more weight. Other than that, I have no problem with these two characters. Shion and Mimi. No, wait. Let me go back to Misaki. Misaki, the Yatagarasu. She is a minor character. I'm gonna lay that she need to have been a minor character. And this is another problem I kind of had with it, because despite the fact the story kind of building up Misaki as being like a major character, like all the group, as soon as her introductory chapters are gone, she's gone. She just disappears. And unlike, later characters, which kind of emphasize that they're kind of going to be here for only a small time, the story goes out of their way to kind of imply that Misaki's going to be sticking around, at least on a semi-regular basis. When she's gone, she's gone. Except for like one single chapter and a couple cameos throughout the story. That is it. She gone. I have no problem with Misaki. Just kind of maybe add some kind of way to make it to inform the reader that she's not going to show up that often, but and now be it. Frozen kept. They're pretty much minor characters. I have no problem with them. They show up, did their thing, gone. I really wish they shouldn't have been in a relationship. I think they would be more better fitted as friends than anything else, but that's just me. Past them. Shion the Gargoyle and Mimi and the Mimic. Mimi is completely interchangeable from Mara. They both have crude mouths. The difference is Mimi is kind of a slut. You know, that's pretty much the only difference. And I guess Mimi kind of has a backstory. She's one of the few characters who we kind of have a concrete backstory behind. She was left in she hated her mom because she feels that she abandoned her dad. Her dad died, and so she traveled with Shion, who was the only person she trusts. She has some trust issues. I'm fine with Mimi. And the time we see her, she kind of grows as her own character. I more really wish we could have a separate story just based around Mimi and her growth. There are a couple characters that I would actually like to see have their own story. Mimi probably being Mimi, and two other characters. Mimi, Andre the Vampire from the Comic Mon episode chapters, because he just seems like a really cool concept of being an immortal vampire who actually helped concept the game of Dungeons and Dragons. That actually sounds like a cool idea to explore. Mimi, Andre, and who's the last character? Oh, and Agent Will. Agent Will, I would like to see Agent Will start his thing, how he became, stuff like that, and everything with him and his relationship with Hokuto, Haru's mom. I'll get to Agent Will in a little bit. So Mimi is fine. I have nothing wrong with Mimi. I think maybe we should have had a backstory again, just like a lot of characters. A backstory in these instances would have helped out the characters a lot. She's probably the least inconsistent next to Yurisume and Quest. Shion is only introduced for the Comic Mon chapters. Her own purpose is to start up to set up the events for Comic Mon, and that is it. She becomes completely irrelevant after those chapters. Like, literally, she becomes completely irrelevant after Comic Mon. And that just screams that she should have been a minor character. Mainly if not a minor character, a major minor character. If she shows up for one that's supposed to set up the events of a later chapter, it would have been better if Mimi was the one who stuck around and Shion was the one kind of going around doing her whole thing, and then finding Attica, the moth girl, and all that stuff. I just think with the idea of Shion kind of becoming a weeb and then falling in love with the Gargoyles cartoon, and then just becoming a complete non-factor after Comic Mon. It just screams wrote the character into a corner, and so decided to just borderline abandon the character for the simple fact that you done all you could with her, but you still needed her around for some reason. She just becomes completely irrelevant. Everything after Comic Con, you could write her out. Literally nothing would change. Nothing about the story would change. Let's see. Who's after Shion? After Shion. Let's see. The Northern Chain, Collection Coils, Gratitude, Animate Objects. As the families, that's fine. Building up, that's the building up. Yeah, that's introduced. That's less blah blah blah. First run after she can't reviews. Yeah, that's the introductory. Grand opening, which introduces Eluru. Eluru should not have been a major character. She should not have endured introduced to the end. She should have been a one-shot character. Why? Because you could easily use Eluru to help finish Quest's side of her backstory. So Aluru is Alrune, who is a slut. She's basically a piss poor dollar store off-brand version of Mara and Mimi, who are both better characters than her. Her defining characteristic is she has sex and she's a homebreaker. She's a homebreaker. The problem with that is that's not a character to really have as a major character. A major minor character where she's there for a small group of characters to help another character, i.e. Quest, needed to be done. She should not have stayed past her introductory chapter. She should have shown up, already been a graduate of the program, met Quest she should have been introduced way earlier. This is what I think the author should have done with Aluru. Introduce her way earlier, right before Quest and Yormu and Quest they're getting ready to leave. Have Aluru be that one last bump for Quest to finish her side of the story. And having Quest go on this introspective journey, saying this is what would, and looking at Aluru and thinking this what would have happened if I didn't change my ways. Have Aluru not change at all until after the events of the story. Have her kind of show up in like a separate story, talking about Quest and Yormu, how she's changing and stuff like that. She should have been just in that one part with Quest confronting her and finally realizing that she was happy with changing, and Aluru representing that mirror effect of Quest, of Aluru representing what happened with Quest didn't change. If she didn't change her ways, if she didn't met Yormu, and that would have been a very good plot, short-term plot, but it would have capped off Quest's story real nicely, dovetailing into the marriage area with Quest and Yormu getting married and moving out. That would have been a great finale for a great penultimate finale for the end of their story. I just think Aluru added nothing to the story at that point in time. She was a complete non-factor from introductory to the end. She just adds nothing at all. She's just there. At least with Shion, she added something with the Comic Mon chapters, but she just became irrelevant after that little plot. So after Aluru, upward. Yep. Let's see. There's Attica and Flare, the two bug ones. Flare's a speed demon. Kind of really wish we could have seen that. Attica, she's more of an astrologer. She's fine, I guess. She's just there to. She's honestly just there for Shion to have someone to be with. I think that's kind of botching it. I think you could have just kept Shion, just not really wanting a relationship at that point in time, and just having her friends build up. And then during the 7-year gap, you say, "Oh, Shion finally found someone. She's dating him or her." Her more likely because they're all lesbians. Nothing wrong with the character. I just think Attica is just really there to just have someone for Shion to be with. So you can, and so she's kind of she's just there. The two maidens, Sia and Rem. Sia's okay, no nonsense character. It's fine for what it is. Rem is actually a pretty good character because we actually had a full backstory on her. She actually has a full character arc. She's actually the only character who has a full single character arc. The only problem I have with Rem is shoving her into the relationship of Suin and Mara. And that's more to the fact that even probably the author saw the writing on the wall and realized, well, I botched up their relationship. I gotta do something to fix it. And even then, with Rem, you just kind of made it worse because instead of fixing how their relationship works, your idea was just throw another girl and see what happens, which kind of worked, but at the same time, it just felt hollow and a pathetic attempt to try and fix that relationship where you could have just reworked certain parts of the story to make that relationship better. that is fine with that's fine. But overall, Rem's is actually a pretty good character. Hakuto, she's basically an Naba hare who occupies a mountain where the inn is located. She's asexual. I didn't know what asexual means until, well, I mainly knew asexual from a video. I believe it was like some guy who's like a dog avatar, and then he was reviewing another YouTuber named Riley Dennis or something like that, and he completely trashed it. I didn't particularly like that what gender orientation would the Smash characters be? And I'm like, why is this a thing? That's fine. And then he just completely trashes it, which I think was wholly deserved because that video was horrible. That video is horrible. And then there's a part where it said, "Oh, Ace and Arrow." It's like, what the hell is it? I'm thinking, what's Ace and Arrow? And it said Ace and Arrow, asexual and aromantic. First off, what the fuck? I'm thinking, what in God's name is aromantic? That's not even. I looked at it and I'm like, that has to be one of the stupidest things I ever seen. Asexual, alright, I get the concept of asexuality. That's fine. I'm straight, so I really don't care. Aromantic is just, why is that a thing? That should not exist, because I just think that's just making the idea of romance a sexual orientation. That's just, at least that's what it looks like from my point of view. It just looks like they're trying to turn the idea of romance into a sexual orientation. You can look it up and give your own take on it, but that's just my take on it. That they're just trying to sexualize the idea of romance. It just seems like a fallacy to me. But Hokuto, the problem with Hokuto is she kind of shows up way too late in the story to kind of make her an actual character. She was given the complete rush job. I think her stories could have been done better. That's fine. And then Agent Will, he's an okay character. I have nothing wrong with him. Corbin, Corbin should have had his own story, because I think it would have helped his character out if he got his own complete origin story, telling how he kind of built himself from the ground up to make the help with Polt and stuff like that. If you did a story about Corbin, you're probably gonna have to have a story with the story's gonna have to have Polt as a main character, mainly because it looks like their characters are tied intricately to another through this story. So of course Polt will have to be involved. And having him built his way up. So the Ski Lodge Koblo chapters, their chapters are really only needed to set up the marriage between Yurisume and Haru. Fine. We also have a non-canon I'm calling it non-canon, which has Kimihito and all his guys from the Monster Musume manga show up. That completely needs to go, in my opinion, mainly because it completely adds nothing to the story. It's just shameless fanservice, but it's badly done fanservice because it's too short to make heads or tails of it. It's just here you want the anime characters. Here's the manga and anime characters. You want to see what Sue does when she drinks energy drink? She turns into a salty bitch. Fine. It's just, it doesn't add anything. Not to mention the placement of the story is so weird. Either get rid of the story wholesale or just move it to its own story and extend it. That's really the only thing I can say about that. The royal guest chapters would just introduce the Egyptian characters. They're fine. They're fine. They're one-shot characters. They're not there to be there forever. They're there to just be there for a couple of guests. Each chapter kind of revolves around one of the members. That's fine. They do the job of what a minor character should do, and that is introducing their own characters, their own quirks, their own behavior skills, and also using those characters to help build up and develop the main group more. So they did their job. And finally, the grand finale, we have Yurisume's mom. She's fine. And then the epilogue where 7 years later, and they get married, and that's it. That's it with the characters. A lot of the characters are flat. Some of the characters are okay. Only 3 characters, Quest, Yormu, and Rem and Mara. 4 characters, my bad. Only 4 characters are actually pretty good. I have no problem with the other characters. They're serviceable. I just think they would be better if they were more consistent. Would I recommend the story? I don't know. This one's kind of a weird one because as much good it does, it also does the same amount bad. Again, most of that is due to the inconsistencies of the characters. Also, I really don't... This is actually more of a question. Sorry for getting off topic, but this is just a genuine question for the author. And what chapter was it? It was in the Comic Mon chapter. Let's see. And chapter 96, there is a line when they do a gargoyle panel, and the two guys, the one who plays Xander and Demania, I can't remember the female gargoyle's name, and they're talking about how Japan is so acclimating for and generous towards giving the monster girls a chance, and then Xander just shouts out, "It's not like." Unlike United States and crap, I completely forgot the name of the chapter. What specifically was said? Where is it? All right, here it is. Chapter 96. Let me just go blah 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 blah. Okay, so where is it? Where is it? Oh, here it is. And it's wonderful. It's so amazing that supernatural beings like her really existed all along even. And then the author actually says, I'm not joking, this is actually what it actually says in the story. Marina nodded, and it's wonderful how nicely Japan has accepted them. England or the US may not be so welcoming, I fear. That is just completely bullshit. I'm sorry, I just want to say that line is complete bullshit. You could have just said other countries. That would have been better. But just singling out England and the United States completely left a sour taste in my mouth because that just reeks of the author putting their own political take on the thing into it. You could have just said other countries. Because then, because it's made obvious that all the countries are kind of okay with it. Shion and Mimi are from France in Europe, and they had no problems with being treated and they had no problems with living there. Yormu was implied to have lived in America for a little bit. She had no problems with it, and she really only moved because she broke up with her. She fell in love with her host, and they broke up, and she just wanted to get away from him. That's fine. But just singling out Europe and the United States, despite the fact there are characters that have been in those areas that didn't really have any problems with it, just reeks of just inserting your political opinion in the story. And my question is, why didn't you just say other countries? Just other countries, how hard would it have been? And it's wonderful how nicely Japan is accepted. Other countries may not be so welcoming, I fear. That would just sound so much better than just singling out other countries, because they don't know what other countries will be accepting of them. They don't know. It's more a complex question than an actual complaint. Because, in the context of the story, fine, you could say Europe and United States. I'm just questioning, why did you decide to do it like that? When there are characters that were in those areas that had no problem living in those areas and really just wanted to move to Japan just to move to Japan. I have no problem with the character. The author also had a really bad habit of taking pot. I just realized the author had a really bad habit of taking pot shots to Japan for their idea of their whole take on homosexuality. That's something for another time. I would recommend this story. It did enough to kind of really like it. Honestly, it's not the best. It's actually not the best Monster Musume fanfiction. I kid you not, the best Monster Musume. Where's Lala? There's no Lala here. The best Monster Musume fanfiction I have is, where is he? Where is it? There's a rule. Let's see, where is it? Oh, here it is. The best, in my opinion, the best Monster Musume fanfiction in the entire fandom so far is called Dullahan by Hyrule. I actually did a reading of a story. I actually really love the story. Me and him actually kind of talked over who was a better waifu, Sue or Lala. He preferred Lala. I preferred Sue. It's my opinion. I really like the story, and I think it's still the best story. I still think it's the best story in the Monster Musume fanfiction area still, and you know that's fine. Sometimes shorter stories are better than longer stories. That's just a common fact of life, and a fact of writing. If your writing skills are good enough, you can actually have short stories beat long stories all the time. It just depends on the writer and how good you are. But I would still recommend this story hesitantly, because I just think the inconsistent characters drag it to barely recommending it. I don't hate it. I think it's just an average story, an above average story. There is a actual threshold where if you actually have a story, where I have Better Off Alone as my favorite fan fiction, and you know it's at the 10. That's the 10 mark. And so if I had to rate this story on a 10, I would give it a 6.5, and 5 would be like the average story, so it's above average. It's not bad, but it's not. I wouldn't put it anything higher than above average. Mainly because it just it's just the inconsistent characters that kind of throw me for a loop, and how all the characters are written kind of the same. Favorite part, I actually have. There are a couple parts that I really liked. However, I will have to say I really loved the wedding scene between Yurisume and Quest, because I think that was better written than Haru and Yurisume's marriage, because they kind of made a big deal about that one. Well, this one's more low key, but it was just better written because Yurisume and Quest were more complete characters. They were better written characters, and even when I was reading that, I knew that you know, based on what the story was like, they were going to be gone after the story, which is kind of what happened. They pretty much faded away after this chapter, outside of a cameo or two. And I really have no problem. Yeah, I have no problem. Chapter 108. The entirety of chapter 108 is my favorite part, because I just think that was the perfect ending to their story. And I think you can't go wrong with a very good written wedding scene. You just can't. And everything that was building up to them actually falling in love. I actually really loved their characters. They got along so well. They had good chemistry, unlike Mara and Suen. And you know, finally seeing the end of their story, and actually brought, it's like a single tear to my eye. I really love this story. But but only for certain parts. Some parts just completely dragged me out of it. Some parts completely got me hooked into it. It was just like the characters, a very inconsistent story. Final thoughts. I don't really have anything to say. It's been like over an hour and 10 minutes for recording this video. This is actually one of my longest videos so far. And I really have nothing to say other than, you know, give this story a shot. If you're not, if and it's not the best romance story, there are better romance stories out there. But I have nothing wrong with it. So this has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.